what do I need to know? What do you need to know in this area? And it's always best to start with God. God, show me what it is that I need to know in this area so that I can begin to restore, to build, to see your abundant life take place in this area. Hey, so glad that you're with me today to hear the word, to learn, to grow. You know, I just love these times of being able to dive into the word, study it together, and I know that God has something for you in this message that's going to meet you right where you're at. Whatever you're facing today, whatever you're growing in, whatever you're wanting to learn, God always has an answer, always has direction for us. And so I'm just going to dive right in. You know, when I talk about God always having direction and guidance for us, you know, where do we find all of that? We find it in the Word. Probably the best gift that God has ever left us is this beautiful book of the Bible. And one of the things, there's so many things I love about the Word, but it's illuminating. It expands our understanding. It teaches us truth. It confronts lies, belief systems that maybe have been holding us back. It tears down strongholds, places, areas maybe that we've been in bondage to, and it just brings a freedom. There's such power and life in the Word. And you know, I love the fact that we can read something and it can confront us, that it can cause us to think differently about something. One verse that's always made me think a little different is Hosea 4:6, where it says, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." Now, it doesn't say prayer or a lack of faith or a lack of love. It says that my people are destroyed, pretty big word, for a lack of knowledge. You know, when I read the word, when I'm studying, when I'm learning a story or reading, whatever it might be, hearing from a message like this one, I often ask myself questions as a way to dig deeper into what I'm learning. So when I read, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge," the first thing I ask myself, and I want to ask you today, is what do you not know, right? What areas of your life are maybe feeling like they're being destroyed or feeling like there's a struggle, there's a cap, there's a limit, because you simply don't know something. You know, when we come to know new things, when we learn, when we grow, especially from a young age, I'm sure you can relate the different seasons of life as we learn and grow. When we know things, it enlarges our understanding of the world, of us, of what we're capable of. Learning and growing expands us, and God knows this. Now, the best kind of learning, the best kind of knowledge we could ever hope to gain, to receive, is God's knowledge, His word, His understanding, His revelation. No matter what we could learn on this planet, it just doesn't even compare to what God can teach us in His word. You know, Paul says in Ephesians, I'm reading from the Passion Translation. In Ephesians 1, he says, "I pray that the Father of glory, the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, would impart to you the riches of the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of revelation to know Him through your deepening intimacy with Him." That's how we come to know God, right? That's how you come to know someone, whether it be someone you're dating or whether you're married now to your spouse. As you deepen your intimacy with that person, that's how you come to know them. And spending time in the Word, spending time in prayer, and just talking with God is a way of us getting to know Him. It continues saying, "I pray that the light of God will illuminate the eyes of your imagination, flooding you with light until you experience the full revelation of the hope of His calling. And that is the wealth of God's glorious inheritance that He finds in us, His holy ones." You know, there's so many things one could hope to know in this life. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just sit down and read every encyclopedia, every history book, and I find it so fascinating that we have this ability to learn and to take in knowledge and enlarge what we can do, what we know, how we live. But it fails in comparison to knowing God, to developing a relationship with Him. It fails, the world's knowledge fails in comparison to knowing, like Paul said, the hope of your calling. Now, what does that mean? Well, my question is, if you do know God today, if you started a relationship with Him through Jesus, do you know the hope of your calling? Do you know the inheritance, the wealth of His glorious riches that He has made available to you? Because what you don't know, God says in Hosea 4, could be destroying an area of your life. Now, I find this fascinating because John 10:10, Jesus said, I've come to give you life and more abundantly, but the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So the enemy seeks to destroy you, but also me not knowing something or you not knowing something in a certain area of our life could be destroying that area of our life without even us knowing it. So it's so important that we keep this level of learning and growing, that we don't become stagnant, that we continue to want to know God, to know the hope of His calling, to understand the inheritance that is found in Jesus. Because Jesus came, He died in your place. He accomplished all that He came to do, everything. But if you don't know what's all involved in that, if you don't know what your inheritance is, how can you walk in it? How can you receive it and see it fulfilled in every single area of your life? It is a crucial part of the Christian life, is knowing God, understanding all that Jesus bought and paid for you, because He went to the cross so that you could walk in life, that you could walk in victory. And wouldn't it be a shame if we didn't just go after that with everything within us? You know, if we want to take our life from a place of brokenness, maybe there's an area of your life that feels like it's crumbling, how do we build that back up? Well, what do I need to know? What do you need to know in this area? And it's always best to start with God. God, show me what it is that I need to know in this area so that I can begin to restore, to build, to see your abundant life take place in this area. And He'll lead you in His word, in His promises. There are promises for every single thing that you face today, every single thing that you maybe lose sleep over at night. The word says that as a follower of Jesus, we shouldn't worry. We shouldn't be fearful because we have courage. We have the answer. We have life. We have faith. We have power and a sound mind. The promises for you are endless, and studying and learning and knowing them till they really get deep down, it's a daily journey. Now, something interesting that Paul says in Ephesians, the verse I just read a little bit ago, that His hope is that you would know the hope of your calling. Because when you know all that God has called you to, when you know all that Jesus accomplished on the cross, you realize that you have hope. And you know what? In today's day and age and the things that we're facing as a world and different countries, hope can be something that if we're not careful, we place our hope in the wrong places, in the wrong people. You know, we might find ourselves putting hope in the government, in leaders and institutions, putting hope in our spouse, putting hope in a medicine or in some kind of system that we think will work for us. And that's where we place our hope. And we find ourselves putting our hope in things that are shaky and things that actually cannot give us long-lasting hope. And then we find ourselves disappointed because we've placed our hope in people that could never meet those expectations. But if we can back up and realize that where we place our hope is in Jesus, that hope is unshakable. Because we can't have faith, this life of believing God and receiving all that He has for us. First, we have to know what it is that we're receiving and believe in it. But the Bible says in Hebrews 11:1 that faith is the assurance of things hoped for. So it takes hope in order to have faith. And so it's actually super important that in this journey with God, in what we think we know, we have conversations with people, and sometimes we'll put our hope in the person that makes the most sense in the moment. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I'm gonna do with my health moving forward. That sounds like the right place to make changes here, and that's where I'm gonna invest my money. Yeah, that makes sense. And if we're not careful, we are so led by our feelings and what we think makes sense, and then we place our hope there, when the best place for you and I to put our hope, to secure our hope, is in Jesus. And our world needs hope. Our world is looking for hope, and yet they come back disappointed because no one can give the hope like Jesus can. In Hebrews 6, it says, and now we have run into his heart, into God's heart, to hide ourselves in his faithfulness. And in God, this is where we find strength and comfort, for he empowers us to seize what has already been established ahead of time. It's been established, an unshakable hope. And it says we have this certain hope, like a strong, unbreakable anchor, holding our souls to God himself. Who can offer you an unshakable, certain hope other than God? One that's anchored, one that impacts your soul. When you put your hope in something that's shaky, when you put your hope in someone that for sure is gonna let you down, because none of us are perfect. No one can guarantee you the world and deliver it as a human being. When we place our hope there, our feelings get impacted, and that's what our souls are, our mind, our will, our emotions. When we get into this habit of placing our hope wherever it makes the most sense in the moment and putting it in an institution, or okay, the government, I put my hope there in the government now, and I'm gonna, this expert makes a lot of sense, so I'm gonna place all my hope there, and we get disappointed, our soul becomes this unanchorable thing that, like I mentioned earlier, just gets tossed by the waves and the wind. And yet God designed you and I to have a hope, to be planted, to be anchored, that our souls would not go back and forth and wishy-washy and feeling like we're up one day and we're down the next. So we have to ask ourselves, where am I placing my hope? Where have I put my hope? In a person, in an institution, or have I placed my hope in Jesus, in the certain, unshakable anchor, unbreakable anchor? And it finishes off by saying our anchor of hope is fastened to the mercy seat in the heavenly realm. I love that this hope, it was established ahead of time. It's already done. Jesus did exactly what he needed to do. There's no changing that. No one can take away this hope that's already been established for you. And when you know about this hope, you can believe on this hope and receive it, because this life with God is a life of believing. It's a life of choosing him and saying, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna let you lead and guide me, God, because you gave your one and only son, and he lived a perfect life, and he accomplished everything in my place. And I didn't even ask him to do it. I wasn't alive when Jesus accomplished this. You weren't alive. We didn't even have to ask him to come on our behalf. He did it because he loves us, because God had a plan to redeem us. And we need to know the hope that we have in Jesus, the inheritance that we have in him, because he gave it all so that you would not have to live with hopelessness.